Number 11. Give it up for number 11. Barony class guides, that is. Can you tell I'm getting creatively bankrupt when it comes to these intros? Anywho, today's class guide is covering the much overlooked Sexton. When I first started playing Barony, I never really gave this class much attention. I didn't like the stealth classes that much, but more recently I've played it a fair bit, and I really regret not trying it before. It is a somewhat difficult class for beginners, but that's why I'm here, to tell you, the uninformed viewer, how to play this incredible class. The Sexton starts with a minimal but highly effective set of tools. Starting with armor, you get a leather breastpiece and boots for a collective 2 AC, just fucking beautiful. And a stylish fez, which, as of the making of this video, has no bonus whatsoever. A shame considering how epic it looks. Starting weapons are also fairly limited, but much more effective. You start with a bronze mace, very good for skeletons, and 3 steel chakrams. The rest of the starting inventory consists of a single piece of bread, a single tamale, 2 crystal shards, a spellbook of sleep, a spellbook of opening, and a spellbook of locking. This is a very, very fascinating inventory, and I'm really going to get into that in the next section. The Sexton's starting skills are very simple, making it pretty evident what you're going to be doing when you play this class. You'll start with 20 alchemy, 40 magic, 40 casting, 40 stealth, 10 blocking, 20 ranged, and 10 maces. These skill distributions are just fascinating. You think, oh, it's a mage, and then you see that stealth, and you're like, okay, it's a stealth mage. But then here comes 10 blocking and 10 maces. We're just fucking around at this point. Playing the Sexton is like an art form. One that requires the artist's attention at all times, but yields fruitful results every single time. I think the Sexton genuinely has one of the best sets of starting items, directly competing with Ninja and Warrior. I'm really surprised that this class isn't used in speedrunning more. I feel like there's some major missed potential with it. I actually looked at speedrun.com, and yeah, there's not a single entry here for the Sexton. Fucking oops, all jokers. The Sexton is spec'd to be a stealth mage. That's pretty evident from magic casting and stealth all having 40 in them. However, you don't actually have any offensive spells. What you do have is the single best rotation of starting spells besides wizard out of every class in the game. Opening will let you open any gate and any locked chests or doors. No loot is safe from your greasy fingers. Locking lets you act as the only class to be a hard counter to mimics, and I guess you can lock doors to delay some other monster, but who cares about that? We killin' mimics, bitch. The last spell, Sleep, is used in tandem with your primary weapon, the steel chakrams. Throw them at, say, a troll, then when you need to pick them back up again, hit him with Sleep, and just walk on by. Of course, you can use this to just pacify any encroaching enemy that may be putting you in a disadvantageous position, or if you have friendly fire on, troll your friends by putting them to sleep. I got on a bit of a tangent there. Let's recap the basic gameplay loop. You're going to kill most things with your chakrams and put your enemies to sleep if they get too close or if you need to retrieve said chakrams. You can also easily get into the turtle gameplay style of bonk then block with your 10 skill levels in maces and blocking. Any door, gate, or chest shall be opened by you, and any mimic in your way shall be locked by you. This is more or less the loop in both single-player and multiplayer, but in multiplayer, you'll be a weird pseudo-support and pseudo-stealth specialist, since you'll be opening any doors for your party, being crucial in any fight with a mimic, and redirecting the flow of combat by putting any strong foes to sleep, so your party can take a moment and think of a new plan. Best part about all this is that you don't even need to use torches for light, because as long as you don't try to block with them, your crystal shards will never burn out, so you can just use torches to level your blocking up to 40. Nothing is stopping you from using torches for light, but it'd be a little silly to do that when your crystal shards are right there, waiting for you to touch them. Weapon recommendations. It gets a little crazy here. Firstly, being a partially ranged class means the Sexton can very easily use our good friend Kirsalakatos, who has appeared in way more of these guides than I thought it would. You could also just stick with the thrown weapons since they are a very good choice. Those chakrams do really good damage and will never break, you just need to not lose them in the midst of combat. I will say, by the time you get to the ruins, throwing weapons aren't as good of a weapon choice, what with the sheer amount of gnome thieves, so either the magic bow or a crossbow or something might be a little bit smarter of a choice. For melee, if you stick with maces, then Sharur is what you'll want. In my playthrough, I actually ended up finding a crystal mace, and used that, since those technically do more damage than Sharur, and they have an increased chance to level your mace skill, but they have a slightly higher chance to degrade. If you don't want to use maces, then that's fine, because you only got 10 in that skill. If you want to switch to another melee weapon type, then by all means, do it. Now, since the Sexton technically is a magic-oriented class, that means you can use spellbooks as a reliable weapon. This just comes down to hoping one of a few spellbooks spawns somewhere, you know, magic missile, bloodletting, maybe lightning, etc. Once again, referencing my playthrough, I got a spellbook of magic missile and kept that for the duration of my run, which made it really easy to kill the Minotaur. Armor recommendations is much easier than the weapon recommendations, because my best advice is to get naked immediately. Look, pal, you get strength, dex, and intelligence. We don't have time for no heavy armor. We gotta run at max speed and kill. In all seriousness, the armor I would recommend for Sexton is pretty much the same as I said for the Arcanist, which just means choosing between the magic-centered items or the ranged-centered items. Magic needs a pipe, Sphinx's casque, Mage's headdress, circlet, apprentice's hood, and a healer or wizard doublet, and ranged needs a bicocket, bounty hunter's hat, stag hood, bunny hood, hood of whispers, dex gloves, and dex boots. Bracers of Constitution are quite good, I got some of them myself, and the Oracle's Treads help you keep track of moving enemies on the map. Miscellaneous item recommendations are pretty minimal here, as the Sexton is basically a magical utility class. It's just the usual recommendations: magic flecked amulets and cloaks, a backpack, and I don't know, maybe a mouth knife. Not a whole lot you need outside of the main gear. Though a ring of levitation is very good, but you can say that for every class outside of the Joker. Finally, for race synergies, we got some good, some bad, and some right in the middle. Let's start with the bad ones and get them out of the way. Skeleton is a bad choice, as it is for most classes in the game, but especially the magic-oriented ones. Goatman is also bad here because its innate mechanics disincentivize the use of magic, because if you're drunk, then your intelligence is lowered. Goblin is a bad choice for a multitude of reasons. The extra durability given to your gear doesn't help you as much because thrown weapons don't degrade in quality, and chakrams are your main source of damage, at least for the beginning of the game, potentially longer if you decide to just keep using them. You can't memorize spells, which I feel for the Sexton is important. It's not a class that I can see using spellbooks that much, plus then you have to carry around all the spellbooks for the spells you want to use, which is bad for the Sexton since you need to stay light, and this causes inventory bloat. The neutral pairings would be Automaton and Succubus, as Automaton is just an alternate human playstyle, and Succubus isn't great, but also isn't terrible for the Sexton. You'll need to be shuffling around a lot of different gear, most of which you'll want blessed, and having a wider pool of NPCs to turn into allies doesn't help the Sexton a ton either. Finally, the good pairings. We start with, of course, Vampire, as it gives you the best offensive spell, Bloodletting, and Levitate, so you get a lot more opportunity to use your mana. Incubus works very well because of Arcane Mark, which nullifies any weaknesses and resistances on the target. This makes it so any damage you send out will do neutral damage, whether it's melee, ranged, or magic. And lastly, the race which I think is the best pairing with Sexton is Insectoid. You get Flutter, so you can cross small gaps, Dash for making a quick getaway, and Spray Acid, which is a decent offensive spell. You're immune to poison, very nice, and can eat rotten food. The one caveat is that you'll need food to restore your energy, which replaces mana for the Insectoid. This sounds bad, but in practice, it's not a big deal. With this race and class combo, you start with Dash, Flutter, Spray Acid, Sleep, Opening, and Locking. You're basically a magical Swiss Army knife. If you haven't played the game with this race and class combo, I seriously recommend it. It is super fun. In short, have a panic attack when you lose a single chakram, barge into people's homes uninvited, and speedrun the game with this class, please. It needs some more representation on the leaderboards. That's it for the Sexton Guide. If you enjoyed, like and subscribe, and have a good one.